Hail cheaters. Welcome to the Always Cheating Podcast. My name is Josh. I'm here with Brandon. Brandon, how are you?
Let's get on with it, Josh. What do you want to talk about?
Okay. What do I want? I want to talk about the English Premier League game. I want to talk about fantasy. I want to talk about what it's like to be a fantasy manager. You and I got together in person this week. Today, you and I went to Smithfield Hall, which is giant. I did not know actually that it is literally twice the size that I thought it was. You said I'm at the right side of this restaurant, and I walked. I think I'm at the right side of the bar. Yeah, I walked up and down for 5 minutes looking for you. It turns out there's an entire second restaurant next door to it that I walked into.
Yeah,
version.
Shout out to our friend Axel, who showed up all the way from Brussels, and his son Louis. And it was interesting going out for the matches on Sunday because the kickoffs were staggered in such a way where it was an hour between the first kickoff and the second tier of kickoffs. Yeah. And then the Manchester Derby runs into that. I understand there were some policing issues in Manchester, which is why they did that. So to get into the bar, there was just like a huge queue because all these different supporters groups were unintentionally sort of running into each other. So it was kind of a madcap Sunday. And I'll tell you what, there was nothing more madcap, Josh, than my fantasy team on Saturday, which I had a cumulative 2 points from, I think, 5 players. Never in my life have I seen something like this. Luckily, I did have goal scorers, the same goal scorers that everybody has on Sunday with Salah and Haaland. A hat tip to those people who got rid of got rid of Haaland. Though I know we are inclined, Josh, to be pro Haaland and pro keep Haaland. Our friend Disable is out there on the Twitter, though, spreading fake news that you can get away with not having Haaland because his team, he got rid of him and scored 80-plus points in game week 10. So, fair play, Luke. Way to show us all up with your very genius fantasy management style. But, I'm feeling... I guess for me, coming out of game week 10, I'm feeling a little disheartened. We can talk a little bit about what the road is forward. But you are on the upward trajectory, coming off a couple of great weeks in Green Arrows. So talk to me about how you're feeling about your squad.
Yeah, I feel good. I feel very good, actually. I'm up 2 million spots in 2 weeks. So how could I not feel good? I feel like I'm finally... Well, it's just sort of the thing that you have to remember if you've been playing for a long time is that early on, it doesn't take things. If things just go a little bit bad, it's pretty easy to be in the millions, right? Especially as the game gets a little smarter and people get better and use, various podcasts and YouTubes and everything else to sort of, define advice. And so I think that, you just have to sort of bank on being able to kind of be a little more consistent, maybe be a little sharper with decision makings, and hope that kind of eventually evens things out for you a little bit, and then a little lucky too. Honestly, I think I was a little unlucky the first couple of weeks, and I was absolutely lucky this week. I can think of multiple ways that I was lucky, and I don't think there's anything. Luck is part of the fun of the game. There's nothing wrong with admitting that you got lucky. I mean, I can think of 2 immediately. Jordan Ayew scores late in the Spurs match, cancels a bunch of Spurs clean sheets, and moves Son from 0 bonus points to 3 bonus points. The end of the Chelsea match where the keeper goes up for the corner kick a little early, I have to say. There was like 2 minutes left in that game. It felt a little premature to have.
Who's in charge? Who is in charge at Stamford Bridge? I demand to know. On current evidence, Josh, no one is in charge.
Yeah. The ball falls to Mbomo, breakaway. And honestly, Mape did not need to pass it. I was kind of shocked, like how that he actually, most forwards do not pass the ball in that situation. But Mbomo started the play. He would have got an assist anyway. But Mbomo started the play, and Mape passes to him late, scores the goal, and also goes from 0 bonus points to 3. And of course, gets a goal as well. A goal, exactly. So
the greatest treat of them all. Minutes. He got a goal.
Yeah. Even today, if you want to count the Salah thing, right? The Szoboszlai pass from Salah 65 yards.
Salah and Bomo just replicated what they did last week with the late heroics, which we'll put a pin in that. We'll come back to that later on in this episode. Yeah, I didn't. I had Odegaard, who was benched in the most plum fixture of the season for any club, home
Right.
hosting Sheffield United. Hate to
Yeah.
see
Yeah.
that. And but great. Thomas
How long
Suchek.
do you how long does it take before you hope he stays as the pitch the whole time, right? Like he gets benched, that's obviously annoying. And then obviously you're like, okay, if he comes on 45, I'll still take it. Comes on 60, I'll still take it. Once you get past 60 though, there's always a party that's like, all right, let's just get on with it. Let's just don't come on the pitch at all. I don't want to see you.
I gotta be honest, I wasn't looking forward to watching Thomas Suchek come on and play in his place in my fantasy squad.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have
Okay.
taken a cheeky 7 minutes from Odegaard. I mean, to
Well,
take
91st minute, you would have been.
well, no, let's say the 88th minute, so he could take that pen that Vieira so graciously took. So
this is the season. It's the season of Arsenal players handing the ball to other players. It's wild. This has happened. I mean, first of all, like the pen. I was trying to look, and I didn't know. I'm sure I could have found this easily if I just hunted around a little bit. But I'm curious. It feels like we've had more pens than last season, but also it feels like Arsenal have had like average like 2 a match, and so every time it feels like it's the second pen of a match, and an Arsenal player has usually Saka has handed the ball off to somebody. I think that's happened 3, if not 4 times already this season, which is kind of incredible.
I did have Dan Byrne come on for Udoggy for his 0-pointer to match Trippier's 0-pointer. So that was good. I started off Saturday with one of my new signees. Welcome, Cole Palmer. And this is kind of like where I could tell this was going to be a bummer every game week, where Chelsea had a pretty decent first half, and Palmer looked incredible. He was spraying the ball everywhere, controlling the tempo. Like he was some sort of midfield maestro, not a want-away forward player from Man City. He looked really great. And then all that magic slipped through the fingertips in the second half, and Brentford just went ahead and did what Brentford would do. So that just kind of seems emblematic of I told you, I cursed myself, Josh, 2 weeks ago when I said I love my wild card team. I think this is the worst thing that you can ever do as a fantasy manager is fall in love with your team, especially fall in love with the wild card, because now I have to go through this slow metamorphosis.
Conscious uncoupling. Yes. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For like player by player. Honestly,
you ever bring him into your office? So the second week in a row where we're doing office metaphors, you got to bring them into the office, sit them down, shake their hands, and offer them a generous severance package.
Sure, James Ward-Prowse is going to want to say like, "Hey, shouldn't we like put me on a plan, and we could like I could see if I can improve a little bit."
You should put him on a pip for sure. I feel it does feel appropriate in his case.
I've got a few problems to work through as we talk.
Yeah.
I mean, do you feel like you've got any problems to solve in your squad?
Well, I did. I'm happy in the end that I took a -4. I was debating what to do with my transfers, and I ultimately decided sometimes a -4. The one way to think about it is, well, if you have a bunch of problems in your team, a -4 can be useful because it just kind of it just gives you. I mean, I'm like, okay, this is like a very obvious way to think about it, but it's just like you just get a transfer out of the way. Right. It's like if you're more or less going to even out with the transfer and you need to like fix a problem and you think that you can basically kind of even things out with the hit, then it's worth it. And so I took a -4. I ended up bringing in Douglas Luiz and Watkins. Of course, I get him for his first blank of the season, and then Tsimikas. And Tsimikas was the one I actually waited until 2 minutes before the deadline to whether or not I was really hoping that we'd get some news on Udogie, and nothing was forthcoming. And I ultimately decided I just couldn't take the risk because if he didn't play, I had Van Hack, who most likely wasn't going to play and didn't play. And then I had Stupinan, who was also very unlikely to play on Sunday. And so I was like, well, I can end up with 0 players here. And you do have Tsimikas at home. I couldn't go as high as Matty Cash. I didn't have the money for it, and so I needed someone 4.5 or cheaper. I was debating Paul Torres and Tsimikas, and I ultimately decided I just like the fixtures for Arsenal, and for Liverpool, excuse me. Actually, I mean Villa's fixtures are really good too. But I was just sort of Tsimikas was just like a player I sort of had my eye on, and handy. I thought, you know what? Yeah, handy. And I was like, there's at least a decent chance they can keep a clean sheet in that match, especially given that Forest are a little banged up front, right? So I was like, all right, let me go for it here, and most likely I just net 2 points, and if I don't, then I'm only out a couple points anyway, right? If you got 2 points, but I was going to get 0 points anyway, then it's only costing me 2 points in the hit, right? And so that's worth it to reshape my defense a little bit. So so it actually worked out. I mean, Semikas and Louise actually came through. I got 13 combined points from them. Louise with 2 bonus from the 1 assist, which is kind of remarkable. And so
he's I think he's part of the midfielder style of player where he's just on the ball a lot, completing a lot of passes. Louise is a pick. That is for sure.
Yeah. And at 5'5", I think it's, he's so good at home, especially. And obviously he's on pens. So, yeah. And so, yeah, I feel okay about my team going forward. I mean, I think the big question for me is, can I get away with not having Saka for a long time? Because to me, it's really hard to have Saka and Son. I don't really know how one would make that happen. It feels pretty, assuming you're going to go with the Salah Haaland double up. It's like at some point you just run out of money, right? You can't have Salah, Haaland, Son, Saka, Trippier, like one player. It's like you pick all these top players, and one player has to get cut from that, right? And you got to pick your poison. And I think at the moment, Saka is the player that I just can't have. I just can't make it work.
That's been my kryptonite this season, is when it comes to me picking that player game week after game week, I'm picking the wrong one. It goes back to Ollie Watkins, and I decide he's the player that has to go, so I play the double, and he has his 3-goal heroics. This week, I dropped Son and Madison so I could get Salah. So I bring in Cole Palmer and Salah.
Yep.
And I mean, all credit to Spurs and Son. And it was an incredible team goal that Son was at the end of. So no shame there. But I'm trying to duck Son, and my Arsenal cover is Odegaard, which may become Saka. Now, there are a lot of midweek matches here with some big teams because the League Cup continues, notably on Wednesday. That's when all of the big matches that you're going to want to check out are. And then Europe is back the following midweek. So game week 11 is not shaping up to be a cakewalk. And I'm coming off of a bad game week, dropped a number of spots. And I want to bounce back immediately. We were talking before we hit record. Wow, the fixtures, they don't really look that appealing in game week 11. Where are all the plum home fixtures that I was really banking on in game week 10? Which, if I'm doing my opposite thinking, Josh, means I'm going to have a great game week in game week 11. Because when I try hard, I fail. And when
so what are you thinking right now for transfers? You're thinking about going Odegaard to Saka as that feels too low. I don't know. From my perspective, no. That
was kind of a long term. The conventional wisdom would be Saka is the better pick. So long term, Odegaard morphs into Saka. But no, I think that's a luxury move for me at this point. My worrying thing right now is having triple West Ham. West Ham have lost all of their sparkle since I wildcarded with Souček, Ward-Prowse, and Areola. Areola, fine. He presents value. So I want to tweak the Ward-Prowse spot, and I am still worried about Udogie because no information always fills me with great anxiety. And like you were saying, in terms of like defensive backup, Kabore is really
it's like a 0-pointer.
Yeah. And I always warn people against getting the 4.5 third striker because it's always just going to prove to be a problem for you. And it's just like the same could be said of like these, unless it's John Lundstrom, all 4.0 guys are just in the bin, not worth nothing. You have to fill the hole with somebody. So, and if you're never going to play them, but I'm really disappointed with Kabore not even being able to provide 1 point from the bench. So I'm a little worried about my team depth right now.
So have you thought about any possible transfers that you may make for 11? Have you gone down that road?
I mean, we could do Udogie to Joachim Anderson for Crystal Palace, who have Burnley away in game week 11, and then we get to see Joachim Andersen play live in person when we're in London.
That's true. I hadn't even thought about that. That's a nice teaser. And actually, they have a nice run. I just realized, Brennan, that is 2 weeks away. Yeah. I haven't quite been able to like trick my brain into seeing that far ahead, right? But yeah, just and I'm going to interrupt you very quickly because I forgot to put this in the running order. But yes, we finally have our venue selected. And I know we posted about this on our Discord and on social media and stuff. But if you haven't seen it or haven't heard it, we are going to be at a place called Belushi's. Apparently no connection to Jim or John, Brandon, just Belushi's. And it's a venue. It's near London Bridge. And we are specifically going to be in the kind of downstairs area at Belushi's, right? What's it called?
It's called the Dugout. The Dugout at Belushi's, yes. London Bridge. Yep. It's on High Street.
Yep. So Belushi's. High Street, London Bridge, November 10th, or 10 November, as they like to say, Brandon, in the United Kingdom. 10 November starts at 7 p.m., right? I think p.m. is universal. So prime meridian, Brandon, that's when you want to be there. We're really looking forward to it. It's a completely free event. Just come hang out. You can stay. We have the room all night, so you can stay for 10 minutes. You can stay for 5 hours, whatever you want to do. Come hang out, and we really hope to see you. And just going to be a very chill hang. We will have stories, perhaps, from going to see West Ham the day before. We're going to watch them play Olympiacos. It's kind of a revenge match. Brendan, you can see all the guys that you've had to lay off. You're going to have to see them again. Awkward. Yeah, exactly.
I'm still looking forward to that. Our first London trip, we did a Europa League match at the Bridge. We saw Chelsea play. I can't even remember.
The Tess, I think, maybe.
Yeah, that was when I famously spilled all that beer all over myself.
Right.
But yeah, then the rest of the fixtures that we have lined up for game week 12 will be the Palace Everton match, and then we'll see Chelsea host Manchester City. Our second trip to the Bridge, and hopefully our first time seeing Holland live in person.
Yes. Don't get injured, Erling.
Yeah. So, I think Joachim Andersen, why not? It's either that or I've been looking at the options for a JWP replacement. I was thinking about Matoma last week, but Brighton really kind of a checkered run of late. They still have good fixtures to come. But I'm just
a little dip for them. It's
less passionate about Brighton at this point. So there is Douglas Luiz, as mentioned. I just have Matty Cash and Watkins up front, so I could go with Douglas Luiz. But I don't like to copy my pod partner.
I know it's a little points chasey, but I felt that way when I got him this week too, and now I'm so relieved that I have this like 5.5 million guy who has all these good fixtures ahead. I mean, you'd have him for Forest, Fulham, and Bournemouth in 3 of the next 4. Yeah. So it's definitely something you should consider. I mean, he's only going to get more expensive too. So I think it's not that and again, it's not like I'm like delusional about his role, right? He's certainly like a central midfielder, but the way they set up, I mean, he gets the ball just sort of outside the box. It's not like we're not talking about like Rodri here, right? It's not like he's like, the deepest midfielder or anything like that. I mean, Rodri's maybe a bad example because that guy's got like a license to shoot now this season, but and he's not like Declan Rice or some, deeper kind of defensive mid. He's getting the ball.
He's not like Harry Kane.
Yeah, he's not. Yeah. Wasn't it crazy that Harry Kane and who was the Bournemouth Billing? Harry Kane and Phil Billing sold. They had the same goal within like 20 minutes of each other today. It was the craziest thing. Yesterday they both like they had these. They both lobbed the keeper from midfield. It was incredible.
Just some sensational goals. Yeah, what would really help me is some news of you doggies' fitness. So I'm going to sit tight until these cup matches on Wednesday, see what information we have. And I think we're going to come back to this defensive idea of like, should we be using transfers in our defense or should we be really focused on attacking prowess? More to come on that.
Yeah, that's basically the theme of this week's pod is, what do we know about FPL this particular season after 10 weeks? So we've got sort of five talking points that we're going to get to. And I'll just say on my transfer front, I'm sort of also waiting on fitness. I want to see if Estupiñán might be able to play this weekend. And if Estupiñán is available for the Everton match, then I'll probably just hold my transfers as well and just start them and take my chances. I think that's probably the right move there. So Brandon, we haven't done this in a while though, just because of the timing of some of these, a lot of Monday matches and things like that, but we have a clean game week 10 in the books. So we want to check in on the Always Cheating Super League, or the 20,000 managers in that league. I think it's not, is it 25, whatever, 20,000 plus, Brandon, in the Always Cheating Super League. So if you crack the top 10, you are having a really spectacular season. So let's start off at the bottom here. Adel Katami in 10th. Elias Kveen also in 10th. Tied for 10th, Brandon. Peanut Butter is in 9th.
Topical.
Jonathan Orkarut is in 8th. Tom White. Interestingly, Tom White, Brendan, is the name of the detective that from Killers of the Flower Moon. The one that Jesse Plemons plays. His name is Tom White. So
wow, he lives.
Coincidence?
The dead speak. The dead manage.
The dead speak. I wish the Killers of the Flower Moon had also started just like the Rise of Skywalker with
why not
a scroll that just said the dead speak. All right, we got Loritz Poost is in 6th. Dan Clark in 5th. J.D. Abbott in 4th. Nice mix of names I can pronounce and names I can't pronounce in this top 10 this week, Brandon. Shyam Thiruvil Wamala is in 3rd. Excuse me, Shyam. That's probably a very bad.
I think you gave it a good shot.
Yeah. Adam Gonçalves is in 2nd, and Sebastian Tortusa is in 1st. Fleckens Fellows. So
that sounds like a club I'd like to join. The Fleckens Fellows.
Me too. Fellows is a nice word. I should use fellows more often. Hello, fellows.
Yeah.
I should say that in the office when I pop my head in. Brendan, Patreon. We will be we're looking forward to seeing a ton of our Patreon supporters at the meetup on 10 November. And if you want to support the podcast, say thank you for the free weekly podcast and get an extra podcast each week. You can go to patreon.com/alwayscheating. You can also chat on the Discord, and the higher pledge tiers, you get this new very fancy. I really do like this. My friend Noah, Brendan, showed me that. I don't have one myself. I have to pledge, and you have to make the decision to support the pod eventually.
Pay the man, Josh, if you want it.
Yeah, but it's a nice looking. It's not a mug actually. It's a pint glass. It's a very nice pint glass, and it looks like the kind of etching that will not. If you could put that in the dishwasher, that looked dishwasher safe to me, Brandon. I think you can. You don't have to hand wash that one. And so a quick thank you though to our newest Patreon supporters: Talia Shikoja, Eric Kite, Spining Arneson, and Skinny Nige. Those are the newest supporters of the Always Stream podcast.
I gotta tell you, Josh, I saw Killers of the Flower Moon on Saturday, and I wonder if I would have liked it better if I was having a better game week. Yet another life example of your FPL score bleeding into other aspects of your life. So, Scorsese, Mr. Scorsese, if you're listening and you saw my review on Letterboxd, that's all down to Martin Odegaard not starting. I'll rewatch it at some point in the future.
Isn't that exactly what they tell you not to do? Find a way not to let it spill over into the into your real. I saw it and I enjoyed it. So we got one supporter here, and then you sort of lied to our friend Amy. It was all positive. I'm not this negative opinion. You say that for me. I heard that on the sly.
You're my critic. Yeah. You're my critic, buddy. We're on the aisle occasionally at Always Cheating.
That's true. We had the Two-Face situation here, Brandon, didn't we? Yeah, it's a great villain just turned into a great way to behave around mixed company. All right, well, let's take a quick break, and we'll get back and to talk about what we know this FPL season after 10 weeks.
There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform that you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. One of the things I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy because Indeed does the hard work for you. They show you the candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post so you can hire faster. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports, and support the show by saying that you heard it on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.
This Halloween,
mystery lurks around every corner.
Bundle up with Disney Plus and Hulu.
What are you scared of? The dark.
It's spine-tingling fun on Disney Plus with Haunted Mansion and Goosebumps.
I'm gonna need you to spread the word.
Then feel the bone-chilling terror on Hulu with The Boogeyman and American Horror Story Delicate.
Something's happening to me.
The Disney Bundle with Hulu and Disney Plus. All of these and more streaming this month. Plans starting at $9.99 a month. 18 plus only. Access content from each service separately. Offer valid for eligible subscribers only. Terms apply.
Today's topic, Brandon, what we know about this FPL season after 10 weeks. We've got 5 points here. There's a lot of different ways that we could go with this, but I think these 5 hit some of the big talking points 10 weeks in. We'll have to wait. I think we're going to wait till mid-season before we do the full team-by-team review. One of the pods, it's up there with Kings of the Game Week for me, Brandon, where we just go player, team by team. Player, well, that's what we should do sometime. That'd be like a, if we ever do like a 24-hour Patreon thing.
Sponsor us to talk about every player on the on the site.
Exactly. Go through like 450 players, try to find something to say about all 4. All right. So anyway, 5 points here. First one is, and again, you point out there are of course counterexamples. It does not mean that you cannot get away without doing this. But you do make it it's a very high wire act if you don't do it. And that is, you get what you pay for with top end attacking talent. And I think the example I pointed to here is, and again, top end is crucial, right? Because Haaland and Watkins and Salah and Son are currently the 2 most expensive players at their respective positions. And they're also number 1 and number 2 in points in both positions. Slight caveat here, which is that KDB is more expensive than Son, but did get injured like 20 minutes into the game 1. So I think that it's okay to exclude him. And Watkins is now the most expensive. I like when I make a point, Brendan, then immediately walk it back and undermine it. But let's just
Josh way
going here. It's the Josh way. So, but Watkins is now the second most expensive forward in the game. And it was really clustered. You had Haaland at 14, and then you had to drop all the way down to 8 to get to everyone. Literally a $6 million price drop.
It's like that elevator at the start of that Haunted Mansion ride in Disney World, where you feel like you're crashing into the Haunted Mansion itself. That's a Easter egg for all those people who've been to Disney World. I count myself among them.
I've never been to either one. I've never been to Disney World or Disneyland.
We should go sometime. We could do a meetup. We can do a meetup there.
The cheaters are going to this. But I think it's very interesting because you have, and I know he was injured for one of these weeks, but it's like someone like Son. It's like the season starts off and you're like, I just don't, at 9.5, am I really going to get what I want out of him? Maybe I can just go a little cheaper, go with Madison, go with Bowen. I mean, they were all players who have all been good and worth owning in fantasy to be sure. But there we are, right? We're even Saka, right? I mean, I can get everything I want from Son, but $1 million cheaper with Saka. And it's like, well, here we are. And Son is 14 points above Saka. He's 16 points above Madison, 18 above Bowen. Now I'm just naming players, but his ceiling is so high, right? It's like along with Salah, it's like they're just capable of really massive returns, and that's really why you have to pay the premium for those players.
Yeah, and this extends to the defense as well, because Trippier is the top scoring defender. Now you have Trent Alexander-Arnold, who has really not had a great season fantasy-wise thus far, and that he is more expensive. But still, if you just look at the top point scorers in the game right now, it really does correlate to the basic understanding of who is the best player on this team. Salah, best attacking player on Liverpool. Haaland, best attacking player on City. Son, Watkins, Mbomo, when Tony is not there, we would look to Mbomo, Saka, Bowen at West Ham. So logic. It's even though it feels like a totally chaotic season, the logic is winning the day, and the best players are really leading the charge.
You're right. The table looks very logical, doesn't it? Like I'm looking at midfields right now. It's like Salah, Son. I mean, okay, Mbomo's maybe a little higher than you'd expect, although I think Mbomo was one of the most highly owned players going into the season, so that's not like a shocker at all. Maddison's been excellent. Bowen. I mean, it's certainly like when you get like the top 6 are all kind of, the players that you would think would be there. So maybe it hasn't been as chaotic.
I think maybe the chaos gets into the mid-range, which no one has really nailed. That's why, there was a week-long conversation about Cole Palmer leading up to game week 10, because then, you get beyond these sort of talismanic figures, and you have Neto in there, Matthias Jensen and Brentford, Wang Hee-chan, who's having a tremendous season, and a random assortment of defenders like Romero at Spurs. And Spurs, rarely have they been known for their stout defense, but they're playing very well.
Vicario is so good. I think that's like the big difference. It feels like he saved a bunch of goals for them.
Vicario and Van de Ven, just like right there. Those are your 2 transformative signings in the Premier League this season.
Yep. Yeah, so I think that it's just like and that's I think where I ultimately came down, because there was an easier move I could have made this week where I could have gone, I could have brought in, I could have moved Son for Saka, and it might have, it just like it might have simplified things a little bit in terms of like team structure and things like that. Mm-hmm. But in the end, it was just like, I'm just gonna stick with. I just I think someone mentioned this to me on social media. I'd shared my team a few days before, and they were like, you just keep going back and forth with Son. It's like you have him, you drop him, you have him, you drop him. It's like maybe you just don't drop him. Right. And it sort of stuck with me. And I was like, maybe I just don't. Like, what? It's so tiring to like. It's like at some point I just have to admit that like Harry Kane left. Son is filling the role, right?
He's playing as, and he's not.
Yeah, exactly. And I guess Mbomo is kind of the same. It's the same thing, right? It's like. The big forward in the center is gone, and the little winger is taking over the role. And I think that's very, very, and both those players, to their great credit, are talented enough to step up. And so sometimes it is, and maybe that's kind of what I'm trying to say with this first point, which is that sometimes it is that simple, right? Sometimes you can there's a very clear narrative. And Mbomo, like Brentford are a smart club, right? They recruit well. They've got an excellent coach. They're going to find a way to make it work, right? They're going to have these dips, which I feel like Brentford more than like any kind of top, like one of the, I feel like they're like the best mid-table club or whatever. They're like one of the, like there's such a, like you can't imagine them ever getting relegated, right? It's just, it feels like at least under the current.
The foundation is just really strong with the way that squad has been built over the last 5 years plus.
Yeah, exactly. And so, I mean, like Watkins came from there, right? It's like it's a really solid.
Benrahma.
Benrahma. Yeah. So you can sort of, if you sort of thought about it logically, it's like, right, well, like they're going to find a way to score goals, right? It's just like they're going to, and Mbomo is going to be a huge part of that. And the same thing with Son, which is that Ainge, started things out with Richarlison. It's just like, this ain't working. Why don't we just like throw our best player up front and see if he can score some goals? And it was like, oh no, that worked. That was really effective. And having Maddison there obviously helps too, because Maddison just first player since Eriksen who can just like move the ball around for Spurs, right?
Yeah, it reminds me of Maddison at Spurs. Reminds me when Bruno Fernandes first moved to Manchester United, and you were like, oh wow, you just get a creative sort of personality that has a lot of talent in the middle of the park, and it can unlock so many possibilities. The shine is worn off of Bruno for many different reasons related to that club, I'm sure. But he's Maddison,
like the least responsible, though. I feel like
right. He remains like a really top class talent, but James Maddison has just unlocked all of this potential that we may not see if he weren't there. So the way, speaking of like squad building, what Spurs did in just a few months is mind blowing, honestly.
Yeah, I think it's great because I just think it makes the Premier League more fun, right? I mean, the top of the table right now, you've just got I don't know, Spurs, Arsenal, Man City. It's like it's a fun year so far. So I actually think it always helps when they align, when fantasy is fun, the Premier League isn't. And I was saying this even 2 weeks ago when I was at 3.4 million or whatever. But like the season is fun, and the season it was keeping me going even when my season wasn't going well. And I have been enjoying the actual narrative. Although I have to say I did not enjoy the Manchester Derby today, Brandon. That was not. I was looking forward to it. It felt like it was like the slow asphyxiation.
Yeah, it was cold blooded. Yeah, it really was. It was like a Coen Brothers film, in that like some poor innocent chap just gets murdered by pure evil.
Deserves got nothing to do with it. Kind of feeling. All right, let's move on to our next one here, which is it brings. I mean, Mbomo is a part of this as well, but there, this idea of X minutes is something that I have been slightly resistant to. I don't know if I'm resistant because I don't believe it, because I think I do, but it's almost just like there's like a kind of laziness to it too. It's like, am I really going to just sort of like factoring this into my decision making process?
Can you tell me what you mean by X minutes? Is this just down to I need my player to be on there till the 90th minute, whatever the cost?
Well, it's an idea that's gotten more popular on a lot of these data driven websites. And I'll show an FPL review here because I'm a fan of theirs and a supporter for that matter. And you can sort players and you can weigh them by how many minutes they're expected to play, and it's. I have thought for a while that it was like a slightly over, and there are exceptions. I mean, Son is still frequently subbed at the 74th minute, but I think I just feel like so far this season we have seen the value of expected minutes, and I think you can think of two examples kind of immediately that come to mind, and maybe they're sticking with me more because I benefited from them so much, but it really I think they just point to why. When you're looking at a transfer, think about how many, are they, if you're kind of weighing two options, right? Like, I like this team. I might like their fixtures a little bit better than the other one, or I might, whatever. But it's like, how many minutes did this guy play is a big factor. And I think that Mbomo is an example of this. So like if you're weighing like Mbomo versus Matoma, let's say, Mbomo is going to play virtually every single minute for Brentford. And you see the benefit of that late in these matches. It's almost like hockey, right? Like where you get these open goal situations. And obviously today was an extreme example of that. But like you do get these moments where if they're just on the pitch long enough, sometimes there's going to be a breakaway and they're just going to get an extra chance, or they're going to get an extra assist, extra goal. And we saw the exact same thing happen with Salah last week. And Salah's kind of the X minutes king, right? Because one of the reasons everybody loves to captain Salah is you're like, we saw it today, right? It's like, well, looks like it might not be his day. And then it's like, 78th minute, right?
Just like feast on somebody's mistake. Matt Turner's in this case. Some talent and pitch awareness by Salah, and he's always ready to spring that trap, which you love to see. Counts. But he's just feasting all the time. And I kind of, as you're alluding to, there are going to be more scraps, if I can push this metaphor extremely far. There are going to be more scraps to feed on at the end of the match when the opposition team is spent. Or when like Chelsea in that Mbomo goal, Chelsea are just like, no points is no good to us. We are going to risk this entire match to try to score on this set piece, including taking our dope goalkeeper all the way up to the corner.
Yeah, this was weird. I mean, I actually think Ollie Watkins falls into this category as well. I mean, I know that he does occasionally get subbed now that they have, in Duran a decent aspect. Although Duran has been injured for. Is he back? I guess he's still flagged. I don't know. Maybe he'll be, but but I mean, Watkins, looking at him this season, he's played the full 90 in 8 out of 10 matches. Yeah. And it's, and it just we've seen it time and time again where it's like, one last chance for Ollie, one last Watkins goal. I think that actually happened just last week, right? I think in the West Ham match, they were up 3-1 and then Ollie scored a goal in the 86th minute or something like that. So I think that it's, I just think that I'm going to start factoring it into my decision making a little more and sort of taking it seriously. This idea that, well, I'm considering a couple of different options. maybe I lean towards the one who is just going to be on the pitch for an extra 20 minutes every match. And maybe that kind of outweighs a slightly inferior run of fixtures. So anyway, yeah.
I poo-pooed this last season when they went to 5 substitutions, and I just didn't think managers would take full advantage of it. And I think this season we're seeing more substitutions and more changing of tactics. I mean, as other managers catch up to where the really successful ones in the league are in terms of in-game management, I think that's why we're seeing more of these players, coming off at halftime, coming off around the 60th and the 75th minute. And then the fixture pile up thing too. You look at Arsenal, they're like, we have a deep squad, some talented guys. We're going to use it. Maybe we don't even need to play Odegaard, or Odegaard's coming off at the 75th minute every time. So then that leads you. That's where you can gain an edge, I think, in the strategy is, while point number one was just look at all the most expensive best players on the best teams, the edge is, well, look at the X minutes guys for the mid-table teams.
Yeah. Mid-table, even top of the table, right? Because, I mean, this is Saka versus Odegaard is another example, right? Where Saka, it's funny because he actually did get subbed yesterday, but that was a demolition like that. If he was ever going to get subbed, it was 4-0.
Sheffield United's soul was taken from them.
Yeah, exactly. But in general, he's almost always on the pitch for the whole match. And Odegaard, despite being such an incredibly important player for Arsenal, does get subbed more often than Saka does, for sure. I guess they have a couple of like Vieira being like a player is a big thing for Arsenal now too. I don't think, last year, his first season, I don't think he was quite ready to ever kind of fill in any of those attacking positions. Now it feels like he can a little bit. And granted, he could sort of play as a Saka replacement or an Odegaard replacement, I suppose. I mean, Kai Havertz, I think in theory he was supposed to be in that.
Hasn't worked, has it?
Has not quite worked out. No. Anyway, all right. So let's move on to point number 3 here, Brandon. Number 3. It is number 3. Yes. Which is that vibes still matter. Okay.
Yes.
That it's so it's funny because I just did X minutes. I am nodding and sort of giving one to Analytics FC. Now I'm going to pull it back, Brandon, and say that vibes are still an important factor to consider. I'll give you 4 clubs, give you the good and the bad. Mm-hmm. The good, Spurs. It's just they're rooting for each other. This is the energy is good. Like they're scoring goals. The defense is good. Everything. There's like an element of just sort of like. They're a fun team this year. They really
the vibes are so good at Spurs that even Richarlison can't squash them. That's how good the vibes are there.
That's true. Even Richarlison had his like really dramatic moment, right? The late sub, Richarlison. Have you seen this? There's some TikTok where these guys like act out, like they act as the announcer.
Those Australian twin brothers. They look like twins anyway. They wear like Xbox headsets and to reenact like the Aguero goal and all that.
I think they're brilliant. Fun. Yeah, they are. Yeah, they're great. And so Spurs and Villa are like. They've bought well. Their manager. I mean, like it's not just vibes, right? But it's sort of a byproduct of good sales of a team that feels like they're sort of clicking and sort of across the attack and the defense, and sort of that is just they're just like a team that you can kind of feel a little more confident like making transfers for their players, and I think. And maybe like when it comes to the good, that's like just a less interesting place to go because obviously like a team that's clicking and playing well and winning, it's like a place you want to look for with transfers. But I think the bad is the more important thing here, which is Man United and Chelsea. And I think a lot of people would attribute their rough start this season to holding on to Man United players, or you and I both included, right? Holding on to Man United players for longer than they should because all the underlines are there, like especially with Bruno and even Rashford to a degree. Like it seems like they're the players that you want to have. Like they're somewhat affordable. They're creating chance. Like it's everything sort of clicks. But all you have to do is sort of take a deep breath, take a step back, look at what the vibes are like.
Do a vibe check,
right? Do a vibe check. It's like they have no defense at the moment, right? I mean, the fact that we're in we're in 2013, almost 2014, and you have Maguire and Evans starting, a Manchester derby.
You're saying you had a Kaiser Sose moment, like the end of Usual Suspects, holding your coffee cup
fell from my.
Yeah,
they didn't give me a cup today. Remember the glass.
The glass one. When you realized I've captained Salah, yet Haaland is going up against Maguire, Lindelof, and Johnny Evans. What did I do? Did I just let Kaiser Sose leave my office?
Did we know that Maguire and Evans were going to start this Sunday? I feel like
who else was going to play? I guess we could have logically.
Lindelof played too, so I don't know. I guess I didn't know they were necessarily going to go three at the back.
I think he's playing like a fullback technically, but it turns into basically the way Pep sets up his back line in a way.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean the point is, right? Yeah, Martinez, Wan-Bissaka, Shaw, all gone. All players who would most likely start a match like this. Yep. I mean, maybe I think actually Wan-Bissaka probably would just for his defensive capabilities. So, and then Casemiro isn't in there as well. It's just like it's pretty rough at the moment. And so I think that it's and then Chelsea are kind of the other example too, where the vibes in some ways are a little better there, but it's like they're just sort of teetering on the brink. It just feels like it's like anxiety inducing. It's like when they do well, it feels like it's like fine china. You're just like, like I don't, it's like this can go like, I have to be very careful, like how I put this on the table. Like, it's just, I just don't trust I don't trust anyone on that team. I mean, Cole Palmer is fine to have because he's $5 million. You don't have to start him every week. Right. But it's like, but in general, it's like, I mean, look at Raheem Sterling. It's just the way he wraps these double-digit returns around nothing, right? And again, I'm trying to keep this somewhat fantasy focused here, but it's just like so frustrating, right? It's a blank. Let's see, it's a 2-pointer, 16-pointer, 0, 2, 2, 2, 19, 2, 2, right? So take away the 19-pointer and take away the 16-pointer, and he is blanked in every single fixture this season. Like, I mean, obviously you can't just take those points do matter, but it's just remarkable to me. Like, I can't remember ever seen that before, where it's 8 blanks and 2 absolutely insane fixtures. And so Burnley and Luton. So
that leads us into the next point, does it not?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. So beyond the vibes that we need to check, this is shaping up to be an all-time horrible season for promoted squads, or the batch of promoted squads this season are just like one of the all-time lousiest. So you call out the Raheem Sterling double-digit hauls. Well, those all correspond to these promoted sides, and Sheffield United is definitely, I think, the worst of the bunch here, and have become like a real, like, look at who's playing Sheffield United next game week. Can I get what player playing Sheffield United? Can I captain a player who is playing them? And these promoted teams are now really targetable in fantasy the way they weren't last season. Like, I mean, name the last season where we spent so much time targeting these teams. Even like the worst Norwich. God, there's a neighboring town up by me called Norwich, and they all in New York insist on calling it Norwich. But even the worst Norwich City teams, we weren't talking about in these terms. So what happened here, Josh?
I don't really understand it. Yeah, because I mean, last year look at Forest, and Forest, even though they had the kind of like off season that was sort of comical where they added 50 players, this is a couple years, the summer before last, but kind of instantly it was like, I guess they're not bad, right? It was sort of like kind of they could sort of figure it out, and Bournemouth were sort of the same way, where there's like so maybe I don't know. It feels like maybe Bournemouth had a pretty rough start last year too, and so things could turn around a little bit, but I think it just doesn't feel that way. It doesn't feel like, and I think one of the reasons that it doesn't feel that way is because I can't remember there ever being a promoted, like a batch of 3 promoted teams, and there isn't a single player. Yeah. I mean, obviously Fulham last year were like they were like mid-table from like the minute they got there, right? They were just good. And so, to have 3 teams that have no players that you would own in fantasy outside, I don't know. I mean, I had Morris for a couple of weeks. It sort of worked out, but it's just like not, you don't really want to be invested in any of them, right? It just feels like, and so I think and of course that's always true to a degree. In general, captaining players and targeting the promoted sides is valuable, but I don't think we've actually taken it quite far enough this year. And I think that it's thinking about someone like Nketiah at home to in the Sheffield United match where it just I don't know. Obviously, you had to kind of be in a wild card for a move like that to really make sense, maybe. But like, going for Nketiah and just saying, you know what, he's cheap and they're playing Sheffield United at home. I can always transfer him out later, but I want to just target this one fixture and boom, hat trick. Right? Could have had 4, and so sort of thinking about this more. Right? You talked about Sterling and what he's done against Luton and Burnley, and I think you can kind of go up and down. And lo and behold, I think next week we got a really difficult captaincy decision because Salah plays Luton Town, but so do you captain Salah at home to Luton Town, or do you captain Erling Haaland at home to Bournemouth? I think it's an incredible debate. It's one of the toughest captaincy decisions of the season.
All right, the extension of the horrible promoted sides this season is all of the Premier League sides that are getting a stay of execution because of this. Like Bournemouth, maybe Everton picking up a little bit of steam.
Yep.
But I'm worried that if we push this promoted side narrative too far, that suddenly we're blinkered to, City are home hosting Bournemouth. Don't overthink it.
Well, I don't know. I mean, first of all, that's an interesting question. Combined across those two matches, how many goals will be scored this weekend just by Man City and Liverpool? I think I'd put the over-under on 11 goals across those two matches.
I would guess FanDuel is going to have that something closer to like 7.5.
7.5 is too low. I'd put I'd put a second mortgage on my home for 7.5. I think we're going to go over that for sure. Not that I even know. I'm going to buy a home and then mortgage that home, Brandon. That's what I'm going to do. Yeah.
Okay. So then let's extrapolate this further. Something that's not on our list is home and away. I think that riddle was solved generations ago. Playing home is good. However, if you're Luton and you're hosting Liverpool, where do you do the vibe check there and say Luton have to at least put on a show for their home supporters? My God, this is one of the fixtures that these supporters have been waiting for since promotion, is we're going to host the mighty Liverpool. Let's see how our team can attack. Is Luton going to be super open because of the pressure to attack?
Yeah, let's see. Well, their last home match was as a 1-0 loss to Spurs. Kind of a fluky one though, right? Because you had the red card in that one.
And lots of missed chances by Spurs to start that match.
Yeah. And then before that, it was a 2-1 loss to Burnley. Before that, it was a 1-1 draw with Wolves. That's kind of before Wolves picked up some momentum though. Then it was a 1-2 loss to West Ham. And that's it, because they had that kind of funky start because of their stadium, and so we don't actually have like a ton to go on so far with Luton in home matches. I mean, they haven't been winning, I can tell you that much, Brandon. So.
But they haven't been getting blown out.
No, they haven't. Not to the degree they have on the road. That's true. Chelsea, they lost 3-0 at Stamford Bridge. They lost 3-1 today. And actually, in general, I have to say, I mean, I guess they did lose 4-1 to Brighton. Okay, they got some nice bloods in there, but they don't have like, remember Southampton? However, when they were still in the Premier League, they once a year they'd always have like a 9-1 loss, and Luton haven't gotten absolutely destroyed yet. But Brendan, it's not too late, and I think it could happen as soon as this weekend with Liverpool.
Wonderful stuff. Well, blessings to all of the supporters of Burnley, Luton, and Sheffield United. You'll live again. We're sure of it. And the way the championship is going right now, Josh, I mean, Leicester, Leeds, and Southampton are all knocking on the door to get back into the Premier League. So once you're in, you're in and part of an exclusive club. Even if you're asked to leave the Premier League for a season, you'll be right back. True. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'm glad that Leicester will most likely be coming right back up. It doesn't feel the same, Brandon. The best match experience I had last time around, the last UK trip was
Yuri Tielemans is going to be dying for Leicester to get back into the Premier League so he can get minutes again.
Isn't that funny? Who would have thought that he would not be able to get minutes Villa have obviously been awesome, but I just assumed he'd be a big part of it. It's kind of interesting.
Me too. All right, what's next?
Is Douglas Luiz kind of taking his spot? Is that really
I think so.
I think so. Yeah.
And I don't know. So Emi Buendia out injured. Does that then reset Unai Emery's tactics even further to
Maybe.
ice? Though, if you're Yuri Tielemans, you're thrilled to be along for whatever journey Aston Villa is having this season. To be playing in Europe and continue to play in Europe. Good on you, man.
All right, we got one last point here, Brandon, which is kind of a classic. I feel like this is very much in our wheelhouse, which is something you and I typically believe, which is that you can still get by through 10 weeks, more or less ignoring your defense. Now, I will say, what I think is that you can kind of ignore defense the first half of the season, and that defense becomes increasingly important the second half of the season, especially in the mid-table clubs where they start to realize, oh my God, the only way that we're going to be able to stay up is a lot of 0-0s and 1-0s. And we need to start focusing on that. Who was the Fulham manager a few years ago? Scotty Parker. Scotty Parker tried to take that to its logical extreme, which was, what about if every match was 0-0? And that you can't go quite that far. But you see the tighten up.
Scott Parker was close to like, what if we just don't show up? Like, what if we come up with more and more elaborate excuses as to why we can't play today?
It was so weird.
I have a tummy ache, that sort of a thing.
I thought it would work out with him. I don't know. Maybe there's still time, I guess. He's a young man.
He went off to manage in the Champions League at Club Brugge, and everyone hated him there. And it's like you don't want to see. You see it happening with Steven Gerrard. It's like you don't want to see a player's playing career like fully erased and tarnished by just how weird they are as managers.
You just look at Ange, look at Bielsa. It's you're going to keep getting jobs if De Zerbi. You can it's okay to concede goal if you can find a way. It's not easy, clearly, but if you can find a way to score a ton of goals, then people will always love you. Like you will that kind of manager will always be in demand, even if it doesn't actually ultimately work out in the end, because it's just people enjoy watching teams that try to win. But anyway, this has nothing to do with my point here, which is that first half of the season, I think everyone kind of goes for it and they try to open things up a little bit. And so I think you can kind of ignore the defense the first half of the season. And, we're 10 weeks in, we still have, 9 weeks to go before we're in the second half of the season. So we got plenty of time left. We're basically just like a quarter of the way through right now. And you look at the top of the defensive table outside of Trippier, you've got Anderson at 4.9 million, Ben White, who I guess he's 5'7" now, and he's probably honestly a little underrated by the pocket. Actually really could have scored in that Sheffield United match too. He had a great chance. I don't like the new haircut. I think it's unfortunate. But I'll save that for my haircut pod.
Sure.
You've got but Romero, even further down, they're still kind of climbing their way up because they had a rough start to the season, but Schär and Byrne have both been terrific. I know Byrne got a 0-pointer in that Wolves match. The Wolves have kind of sneakily come on, haven't they? I feel like I've just not seen, like I've somehow every year there's like a couple teams that I just feel like I haven't like watched play, and I think Wolves are in that category for me. I just feel like I haven't like sat down and watched a Wolves match straight up for 2 hours.
Yeah, I'm pleased for Gary O'Neill because he was unjustly asked to leave Bournemouth. They have a bad record going back to Scott Parker of like bringing in the new shiny managerial toy and getting owned for it. But Wolves have a bit of an issue with Neto going off with a hamstring injury this weekend. So he's been so driving force.
So good recently too. Chan has been really good though too. He's had like some really really nice. Honestly, I continue to forget that he's a midfielder, and then you're like, oh right. He's like, I guess he would be another. I don't know. That's probably maybe he's less. It's just less appealing without Neto there to kind of take away some of the defensive attention. But he's a cheap midfield option too.
The thing about these defenders, going back to the point we were making about don't care about your defense too much, is the defenders getting the most FPL points right now. A large majority of them are center backs, and we typically in our squads try to focus on the attacking returns because there's so much high upside with attacking fullbacks like Matty Cash or Kieran Trippier. But you've got, Anderson and Gahey, Schär, Tarkowski. And then you have like center backs being played kind of out of position, whether it's Caldwell or Byrne. So there's it's and then it's the center backs getting all the attacking returns from Van de Ven and Joachim Andersen, etc. So it's very confusing, and it's not a part of your fantasy team where you want to be points chasing. So just like try to engage in your transfers elsewhere.
Yeah, I think you're right. Confusion just probably points to like inconsistency, and inconsistency means it's usually not a great investment, right? Like the idea that you're going to kind of throw your try every week to sort of I mean, look, I'm sure there is some kind of like FPL whiz out there who's like their specialty is like really focusing on defense, and I think there's probably like an interesting kind of path that you could cut there. It seems very boring to me personally, but I think there probably is some kind of edge there. But I think in general, for those of us who just are just like being like, oh, good fixture, make transfer, like it doesn't work as well with defenders. That's for sure. You don't even have X minutes to rely on, right? Because most of them are 90-minute men, Brandon.
Oh yeah, you want to prevent yourself from making a dumb defensive transfer based on one fixture. Just go watch that goal. The own goal that Emi Martinez scored against Luton this weekend. Yeah, that's how close you are to utter disappointment in with every clean sheet.
That was really. I mean, I guess most. I think in general, like it's very rare that there's a goalkeeper own goal that is just. Right, like it's like the goalkeeper made the mistake. Usually it's right. It's just like it's a bonks the top of their head. Emi Martinez in particular has been a victim of some comedy.
Yeah, Jordan Pickford had that experience earlier this season. It's true.
That's right. He was starting for me when that happened. That was especially fun. All right, Brandon, that is a quick review of the first 10 weeks of the season. Let's take one quick break and we'll look at game week 11. All right, Brandon, back. Game week 11 kicks off with, I forgot. The clocks changed in England, but they have not changed yet. They actually change next weekend for us. So we get a late wake up, the rare late wake up here in the U.S., Brandon. So usually would be on at 7:30. Now it's on at 8:30. That's Fulham hosting Man United. Kick things off. I genuinely don't know who's going to win that match. I think that is, I think Fulham might favor a little bit there. I thought that was impressive. I mean, Fulham holding Brighton to 1 goal today was impressive too.
Yeah. Fulham can be organized. I mean, they are, if anything, Fulham are well managed by Marco Silva. He signed a new contract this week to keep him at the club, I think another 3 years. That's great. So that's good news. But when Paulinho, your boy Paulinho. Now, when Paulinho, your midfielder, is scoring a lot of your goals, bit of a problem. So can Fulham score against Manchester United? And if they can, then they can certainly win this match. Yeah, I think they. I mean, if it's Evans and Maguire, then I think they can score. I think they'll a couple most likely. So I think it should be a fun weekend. I think Brentford West Ham should be a fun match. They're all kind of fun. With West Ham's all over the place right now. I didn't realize that they lost 3 straight. It's sort of. They had an impressive start, and then I guess that they've slipped back a little bit. But what are the kind of key fixtures? I suppose it would be Man City hosting Bournemouth, and the Liverpool Luton match we talked about. Spurs Chelsea's on Monday too. I suppose you could throw Villa Forest in there too. It's for the matches that have the most fan. And then Newcastle. Okay, actually, Brandon, like it's every match. Every match has huge fantasy potential. All 10 of them. No, but I mean the Newcastle Arsenal is a really interesting one. I am debating how many Newcastle defenders I'm going to start. It kind of depends on what happens with the Stupinan. I think the key question for me for game week 11 though is, do I captain Mo Salah or do I captain Haaland? It sounds like you think the kind of keep it simple approach is just to captain Haaland. Yeah, I'm currently on Haaland. I don't know. I have to give it a little bit more thought. So the goals, the manner in which Salah is scoring his goals are just kind of strange to me. The way he's able to repeat it is exceptional. But he's scoring a lot of these. It's either a counterattacking move or he's cleaning up another mess. And
Yeah.
I'm these are the question marks. Now I believe that Liverpool will score against Luton multiple goals. Sure. Liverpool are that good, obviously.
Yeah. Yeah.
But like what am I trying to think through with this captaincy? And I just think City are too strong and Bournemouth are too weak. And they're home. So it's as simple as that.
Yeah, I suppose we have. There are some League Cup matches at midweek too, and so maybe it doesn't really feel hugely relevant for Salah or Holland. I can't. Maybe Salah starts.
Right.
I think Liverpool are still in it, right?
Yeah, I've got the fixtures for Wednesday. West Ham host Arsenal, Bournemouth host Liverpool, Chelsea host Blackburn, Everton host Burnley, Ipswich hosts Fulham, and Manchester United host Newcastle. The most blockbuster fixture there is Manchester United Newcastle. You'd expect to see you'd probably see some full strength squads. I wonder with Newcastle, because they are so close to getting out of that group of death in the Champions League, and they're struggling in the Premier League table, that maybe they just forego the League Cup, and it's a match for Matt Target and Livramento and whatnot.
Yeah, that's true. And I forgot that Newcastle knocked Man City out of the Carabao Cup in that first round. So I don't know. Did they go all in as a Carabao Cup team this year, Brandon? Is that the
do they care about it?
Do they care about that cup most? Yeah. I don't know. It's but I think you're right. I mean, with the team they're building, the Tonali stuff, which I don't really want to get into too much here, but that definitely hurts their team. I mean, I think that's a huge problem for them. And you might have seen a little bit of that when that 2-2 draw. It's just, I don't think that. Well, I don't know, because Man City just lost there a few weekends before. So Wolves are sort of probably a team that you and I need to reevaluate a little bit and sort of start fresh with them. And maybe that's like next week's pod is like
Wolves,
just a whole hour on Wolves. But no, it's like, who are the teams that we haven't talked about? All right. It's like, we need people who are listening. If you feel like we haven't talked about your team enough, let us know. And maybe we'll just, wouldn't that be fun to do an entire pod where we just didn't talk about the top like six at all? Like the entire pod was just focused on mid-table and below.
It would force me to actually learn a Sheffield United starting 11 for once this season.
Exactly. Maybe we don't go. Yeah, exactly. Maybe
let's not go
it's
too
like a
far.
midfield pod. Yeah, let's not go too far. So transfer decisions. I think we talked about that a little bit already. I'm kind of with you though. I'm leaning towards Holland. It was actually, I don't know, looking at the Luton fixtures was kind of, it was reassuring to me a little bit. In my head, I thought I was going to be seeing more 5-1s, and it just feels like they're getting smoked. But they have kept it respectable in most cases, and I don't know. Yeah, I mean, listen, it's also one of those weeks where they probably both get double-digit returns, and so you can drive yourself absolutely crazy to debate between the two of them, and it could be that one gets 16 and one gets 12, right? And it's hard to know, any given week. I mean, I went Holland over Mo last week, and that was cost me 8 points. And I went Mo over Holland this week, and it cost me 8 points. And I sort of feel fine with the decision in both cases, right? I mean, even though that's 16 points missed out on, but you just can't. It's just really hard with these like top players to score a goal is difficult. It's hard to predict confidently. They're going to score. They're going to get multiple attack and returns in a match. Yeah.
Marginal decisions this season. Let's add this to our list in the middle of the podcast. Point number 6. Yeah. This season, marginal decisions have been so massive for everybody's team. Wrong captain choice, red arrow. Yeah. Wrong transfer, red arrow. Yeah. And don't have Watkins, random players like Watkins, or like you make those choices. I want Son over Salah on the wrong week. And these are really defining our seasons so far. With the Luton thing, I wonder if we've been promoted team pilled. And it's like I was saying, I don't know the starting 11 of Sheffield United. With Luton, is it because, like you were saying earlier, there are no players worth having in our fantasy squads? it's making us like extra not pay attention to these promoted teams.
I think
Therefore,
so.
we're not really reckoning
Yeah.
with, well, Luton are good against this type of formation or this,
Yeah.
et cetera. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, I'm curious now that we're actually talking about this. Like, I'm going to go to FB Ref here real quick, and I'm just curious between who do you think has the highest X goals conceded between Bournemouth and Luton? Like, I wonder which one is the.
Yeah,
let's see if I
good
can pull it up
question.
here. Yeah.
Well, I'd go Luton, I suppose.
Yeah, let's see here.
But I bet it's
just
close.
You just talk for a minute while I look this up. It's
yeah, the team XG. I'm also interested to see how it shakes out up front, because it looked like Arsenal are above Man City in the table right now, just on number of goals scored, and it's just wild to me, the narrative of Arsenal aren't scoring this season, but still they've scored one more goal than Man City have this season. So I feel like there's still not enough of this data that's entering our heads to factor into these fantasy decisions.
Well, I'm not going to belabor this, Brandon. The long and short of it is, I wasn't smart enough to find this quickly enough to discuss in the pod.
Site is very elaborate, and there's a lot of data there.
Too much information. All right. Well, anyway, I think neither squad has had a great defensive season, clearly. So, but maybe I'll now that I'm trying to lean into this stuff a little more, maybe I'll use that as a tiebreaker if one is significantly higher than the other.
Yeah, I think Newcastle Arsenal is the fixture in game week 11 that has the most fantasy implications when you get outside of that captaincy argument, because I feel like I'd feel good in your shoes not having to reckon with an Arsenal asset, because you don't have Arsenal attacker or defender.
Yeah. Yep.
But then the question for you, as you said, is how big do you go on your Newcastle defense? But this is a fixture where managers will look at it and say, that's going to cancel out all of my fantasy assets from Newcastle and Arsenal. I want to be a little bit more optimistic about this fixture and say, maybe this will be a high scoring and all of the defenders and attacking players are going to score goals. I'm hopeful with Odegaard. I feel like this match is too important for a title chase for Arsenal that Arteta wouldn't start him.
I think everyone, it's both teams put out their best 11 for this one for sure. I think, and I think I also think that this match, the Newcastle Arsenal match, is if you can only watch one match this weekend, what is it? Answer. I think that it's clearly the Premier match this weekend. I think it should be a lot of fun. Spurs Chelsea on Monday is an interesting one too. I'm sort of curious because Chelsea have put in some pretty good performances recently. The match with Arsenal at the Bridge, they really basically until the last 15 minutes or so, had a really strong performance. And and I'm with you on Palmer too. It's one sign of how well players doing is how often they show him on the screen, right? It feels like he's getting all the screen time right now for Chelsea. He's kind of all over the ball.
Yeah, Cut's an interesting figure, that Cole Palmer. I will say, weirdly, Everton Brighton is a fixture that I would highlight for somebody new to the league. That that could be a dour affair, but listen, as we've covered a lot, Brighton just don't play defense anymore. That's just not in their on their task list. And I think that there are goals in this game for both sides. I think that'll be a fun one.
All right, Brendan. So we did the captain options, talked about transfers. We did our one match to watch this weekend. Finally, Brandon, who is your ex-DIH, ex-Doggenham, as brought to you by the hit movie Strays?
Well, going back to Everton Brighton, I thought Dominic Calvert-Lewin's turn and goal against West Ham this morning was very good, outrageously good. Love to see Calvert-Lewin back. I think against Brighton, he's going to have that dog in him, and I think a brace is coming for DCL.
Whoa, a brace for you're going 2 goals.
Yeah, mega strays.
Okay. I like it. I think I'm gonna go. This is a little off the board here, I think, but I think it's time for a comeback. He did score in game week 9, so it's not that long ago. But I think it's time for him to reinsert himself. Sometimes these matches at the Vitality, they're just like they're like a team refreshed, Brandon. And I think that that Johan Wissa is going to come back. Wait, is that the name of the Brentford Stadium? Now I'm doubting myself.
The G-Tech. The Vitality is where Bournemouth play, yeah.
That's right. They start with G.
I was like, are you going to say you going to say Erling Haaland? No, but they're playing
they're playing at home. Yeah, exactly. So I've lost my mojo here a little bit. But yeah, the G-Tech, we've all seen Brentford put in some great performances at the G-Tech, and I think that Johan Wissa is finally going to reassert himself. Now, I could have gone in Mbomo, obviously, but we all know already that he's got that dog in him, Brandon. Don't pick players like Mbomo or Haaland for this. We already know they got that dog.
I'm familiar with the Josh Landon reverse jinx. So if you put the DIH on Vissa, that Mboma is going to walk away with all the points.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm saying here. I did do that with Son on Friday, but it only works if I genuinely mean it when I say it. It never works. I'm trying. I don't think an intentional reverse jinx has never actually worked for me. Okay. I have to be actually genuinely angry at the player that I'm tweeting about for it to work.
Yeah.
All right. Well, anyway, that's your pod for this week. Good luck to everybody this weekend. A reminder once again that November 10th, Friday evening from 7 p.m. on, we will be at Belushi's in the Dugout. That is their downstairs space. We've got it all evening. Come by whenever you'd like. Get there at 7 o'clock. Get there at 9:57. Whatever you want. Come by and say hi to the Cheaters. Totally free event. We just want to see as many listeners as possible and friends that we've made over the years in the UK. And meet people for the first time, which we do every time, which is awesome as well.
Yeah, really looking forward to our stay in the London Bridge area. If you have Rex and your favorite bars or your favorite grocer at the Borough Market, we're taking all of them.
That's true. Yeah,
and our match day experiences are going to be great. Yeah. If you watch the FPL show that the Premier League offers, Josh and I will be on it Friday morning. I think maybe Kelly Summers will be there. We'll see.
I hope so. We'll see.
Yeah, they all have greater star wattage than the Cheaters, so we'll do our best to bring our A game to the FPL show. So lots going on during our UK trip.
Making our own wattage, Speak for yourself. Well, thanks everyone for listening. Once again, you can go to patreon.com/alwayscheating to support the pod. And Brandon, I'll do the Patreon thank yous this week. Thank you to Mike DePietro, Trevor Ingerson, our buddy Chris Howell, Chris, I haven't talked to him in a while. I got the Tennessee beat Michigan State in exhibition today by 1 point. It was very annoying. But congrats to you, Chris. Babas Kuhn, James Holland, Dave Wagner Lodell, Nick Wright, who's going to be out of town, sadly, when we're in the UK.
Dang.
Lazarus Llanos, Jesse Halstead, Bruce Kerr, Brian Chin, Blair Jacobson, Todd Byerly, Andy Portlock at FPL Merch. Kerry Swanson, Jefferson Turner, Buffalo Wild Mings, Francis Moore, Sam Shower, Caleb Robbie, Valgar Paulson Kruger, Alex Holcomb, James Keatley, The Saint, Bob Fox, Craig Jackson, Shalin F. Kadakia, Terrence O'Donnell, Paul Hertzig, Keith Cram, Thomas Tisloff, Noah and Louise. Great to see you guys this weekend. Travis Grant, Julio Pena, Linus Vennerstrom, Dan Parsons, James C., Matthew Skinner, Furrow Jacobson, Brennan, Daniel Hart, Lolly, and Ben Coombs. Thank you so much to everyone who supports the podcast, especially those Patreon supporters who are the Patreon producers who help, allow us to do this podcast every Sunday evening.
Absolutely. Another help to us is rating, reviewing, and subscribing wherever you get your podcast. Never miss an episode. Follow us on social media or hit us up on our website, alwayscheating.com. Josh, if you're a fantasy manager out there who's on a green arrow, keep going. And if you're a fantasy manager on a red arrow, your next green is right around the corner. I think I'm going to say that at the end of every podcast from now on. I have a public access cable channel.
I think you got to tighten it up a little bit, but I think there's something there.
A little baggy. It is a little baggy.
Yeah, got to pop it into Grammarly and see what they suggest. All right. Well, Brendan, it was good talking to you, and I'll see you next week.
See you.
There's no I in team, but there is one in Indeed, and that's the hiring platform that you need to build yours. When you're hiring, you need Indeed. Instead of spending hours on multiple job sites searching for candidates with the right skills, Indeed's a powerful hiring platform that can help you do it all. One of the things I love about Indeed is that it makes hiring all in one place so easy because Indeed does the hard work for you. They show you the candidates whose resumes on Indeed fit your description immediately after you post so you can hire faster. Join more than 3 million businesses worldwide that use Indeed to hire great talent fast. Start hiring now with a $75 sponsored job credit to upgrade your job post at Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. Offer good for a limited time. Claim your $75 credit now at Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. That's Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports, and support the show by saying that you heard it on this podcast. Indeed.com/Blue Wire Sports. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? You need Indeed.